Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening all, very welcome.
Thank you for that. I'm Pete Barry, I'm the chair of the committee. So very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for coming along and eager to be having a successful evening from your perspective. Welcome to the committee. Yeah, are we ready to start?
I believe you are, Chair. First port of business will be the actual official election of the chair, although we agree that in principle for the full council. We just need to take nominations and vote on that, please, Chair.
Can I propose Peter Parrott for chair?
Second.
Thank you very much. So we have a proposal and a seconder. Can we take a vote on that, please?
Is there a nomination?
Is he in to do it?
I know Ian is, but he just asked me to do it. So, do we have any other nominations? Councillor Gray, are you sure about that?
I'm positive, thank you.
You can sit on your hands. Okay. The public, the slight joke there, Councillor Gray's been chair for 4 years, has done an excellent job, so he's just standing down. So, can we take a vote on the proposal, please? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Are you in favour, Chair?
Oh, yes, all in favour.
As unanimous, Chair.
We now move on to the election of the vice chair. I have somebody I would like to propose, and that is Councillor Luke Wickham.
Seconded.
Thank you. I'd just like to say why I would like to do that, if that's okay. One is your experience of governance matters and all the excellent work you do with the governance reviews, and also your ability just to get things done. So we have a proposer and Councillor Harris, seconder. All those, do we have any other proposals? Okay, can we take a vote on that, please? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Would you come and let's join us, please? Moving on, do we have any apologies for absences or any substitutions?
Chair, we've received apologies from Councillor Ryan Hope and Councillor Bell is substitute. Just
Can we have a proposer, please, to accept those apologies? Councillor Dickinson, can we have a seconder, please? Councillor Lambert. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions?
no, Chair.
It was, yes, thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? Okay, as I said.
On the grant applications, application number 4, BJJ Weymouth, Trident Weymouth. I'm a member of the club, I don't serve on the committee.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Councillor Beck.
Couldn't seem to want to go up, could you? Still on? Thank you. Okay. Yes, again, grant application. The first one we've got on the CAB Central Dorset. I'm the liaison meant to be between Dorset Council members and the CAB Central Dorset. But non-pecuniary, so I think I'll continue on with it. Just be aware of it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lambert.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm not convinced I need to do this, but I was queried over it last time with regard to the CRAG application, grant application. I'm not a member of that charity. I support it, and currently I'm working with it on the Great Big Green Week with my transition town, Weymouth and Portland hat on.
Okay, thank you. I want to declare an interest myself as well, because I've got 3 grandchildren sat at the back of the room who are all members of the Jiu-Jitsu club. So I have a non-pecuniary interest in that as well.
Thank you, Chair. I just confirm that we haven't received any requests for dispensations in the office.
Okay, we can move on to the minutes of the last meeting, please. Does anybody have any observations they'd like to make about errors or omissions they would like to raise? So is everybody happy? Can I ask someone to propose to accept the minutes, please? Councillor Watley and Councillor Lee second. All those in favour, please. Okay. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. We now move on to councillor questions and statements.
Question from Councillor Lambert, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Lambert, I understand you have a question for us.
Yes, I do. I did have, if it's lost it, I'll do it from memory. Yes, thank you, Chair. For people who are listening and for and people in the room, I'm going to refer to the Town Council decarbonisation plan, which is our move towards carbon net zero by 2030. Thank you. And thank you very much. And I'll also refer to phase scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions, which are the emissions which come from electricity, using electricity. So the question is, the Weymouth Town Council Decarbonisation Action Plan was adopted in February 2021. The short-term priority period for action ended in March 2023. By comparison with the figures given in the Decarbonisation Action Plan, what progress has been made with regard to reducing Scope 2 overall greenhouse gas emissions during this period regarding commercial road offices, beach office, Logmore toilets and Swannery toilets as a result of the mitigation measures implemented thus far? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. And you to Deputy Secretary for an answer.
Thank you, Chair. We, on receipt of that question, we've compared the usage in 2023 with the data which was in the GAP report. And I can confirm, Chair, that in terms of the town hall, the kilograms of CO2 kilogram emissions in 1920 were 60,310. The mitigation measures of the new town hall has taken that down to 12,884. In terms of the Logmore toilets, where there has been solar panels fitted, the CO2 emissions have gone from 6,300 kilograms down to 1,419. And the Swannery toilets have gone down from 2,340 down to 1,389. I will, of course, circulate these figures after the meeting to members so they've got that information. So we've seen a reduction in the CO2 emissions of 9,258 kilograms when comparing 2023 back to the report from 1920, just on those buildings which have been asked about. Just to confirm, the reduction will probably increase because the solar panels have only been fitted for part of the year 2023.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor, do you wish to come back on any of those?
Well, just to highlight, excuse me, just to highlight the fact that those kilograms carbon dioxide emissions, very important, but excuse me, very equally, from the point of view of the council, this represents a monetary saving as well. And that's a return on our investment in the green agenda. Thank you.
We just to like one other point, just on that point, Councillor Lambert, we've been able to give savings of just under £10,000 on our usage compared to 2020. Just put that out there.
Thank you very much. Sounds like a very good news story. Do we have any further councillor questions? Okay, thank you. Councillor Brooks, would you like to join us? We moved this item up the agenda to avoid Councillor Brooks having to sit with us for the entire meeting. And so Councillor Brooks is going to give us an update on the Weymouth and Louviers Society.
Are we on? Right, thank you. Right. Ladies and gentlemen behind me, Chairman, fellow councillors. This is a short annual report on the Weymouth Louviers Twinning Society. I took over the role as chairman in January 2020, expecting a full year of visits and activities, only to find for the first 2 years we were all locked down, told what to do, told what we couldn't be doing. So it's not until actually this year that we got back to doing any sort of usual activities of the society. Some of you, I know, are fully aware of the society, what the work involves, and I've been involved with visits to Louviers and I had visits from Louviers. But for those that may not be aware of the history of the society, I'll just quickly run through what I've prepared here. The current Weymouth Town Mayor is the honorary president of the Weymouth Louviers Twinning Society. Twinning was first introduced shortly after the Second World War and was seen as a cost-effective way of bringing together communities from cities and towns throughout Europe in a spirit of friendship. Weymouth has been twinned with Louviers in Normandy, France since 1958. The first charter was signed by Alderman Lee in France in 1958 and is displayed between the two doors of the council chamber on the wall on the right. Behind the hat stand at the moment, but I'm sure that's not always the case. The Twinning Society has existed in one form or another since then and has worked in tandem very closely with the current local authorities since that date. In 1958, it was Weymouth and Melton Ridges Urban District Council, followed by Weymouth and Portland Borough Council, and after local reorganisation in 1974. After the most recent local government reorganisation in 2019, and with the formation of Dorset Unitary Council and Weymouth Town Council, Portland Town Council decided that they no longer wanted to be part of the current twinning arrangements with Louviers. Therefore, the society has changed its name from the Weymouth and Portland Louviers Twinning Society to the Weymouth Louviers Twinning Society. Portland had only been involved with the society since the Borough Council days. So there are two main elements to the society's activities throughout the year, and one is a visit from Louviers in May of each year. However, no official visits were made in 2020 and 2021 because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, once travel restrictions began to be lifted in 2022, some society members made private visits to Louviers at their own expense. We decided not to go to France in September last year, purely and simply because the travel arrangements were on, they were off, nobody was sure, you needed this, you needed that. So they took a rest and so did we. So in May each year, a delegation from Louviers, led by the mayor of Louviers' representatives, comes to Weymouth for 3 days on an official visit. Society members accommodate French friends in their own homes at their own expense. Some of these arrangements have been in place for 40 plus years. When I wrote that, I having had a thought, and we've actually got some members that have been members for over 50 years. So children from England have been friends with children from France, and in some cases have grown up together via twinning, going on to marry and have settled families of their own. The French delegation is met in Weymouth by the current town mayor. Host families meet their friends and use their own transport to ferry them on for the weekend. Members who don't have a host family stay in bed and breakfast accommodation in Weymouth at their own expense. A few are sometimes accommodated by non-society members. This year there was a family of 3. They'd never been to Weymouth before, and it was their society covers the accommodation cost of the French coach driver and the mayor's representative. This year that cost will be a little more than £500. We're not exactly sure, we haven't got all the invoices in from the official visit. An official reception is held on Saturday evening. This year it was held at the Royal Hotel. The evening features a meal with speeches and exchange of gifts, and is led by the current town mayor. The society paid for the meal for the French delegation and town mayor, with society members paying for their own meals. This year, the official reception meal for the French delegation worked out at £1,477, while the cost of entertainment at £100, decorations £36. So the old evening costed society £1,613. Because we haven't been together for nearly 3 years due to the COVID pandemic, the society decided to have a lunch at the crustacean restaurant on the Sunday. The cost of this for the French delegation was £1,800.32, £1,832.10p. In previous years, Sunday has always been a day for a visit somewhere in Dorset. However, because Weymouth Rotary was holding its fair in the square, the sun was shining, and the beach looked fantastic, the society decided just to stay local, which paid off extremely well. So in September each year, a delegation from Weymouth visits Louviers, led by the current town mayor. This year, the society is once again going 2 days earlier, and we're making a 2-day break in Granville before making the final part of the journey to Louviers. We've always done that in years, making a 3-day break into a sort of slightly longer 5-day break, which is quite nice. The society covers the cost of the mayor and partner, with other society members paying their own way. The approximate cost will be, this year, will be £440 per person. An official reception again is held on Saturday evening, and again speeches and gifts are exchanged. Anyone without a host family covers their own accommodation expenses whilst in Louviers. The total cost of the reception are unknown, but is covered by Louviers Council. This is one of the things that, for those that have been before, have always felt it's almost like an unequal partnership in many ways, because the French always tend to spend more on it. They seem to have more money to spend than we do, and but that's, you know, their arrangements and their political system is completely different to ours. Again, where am I now? Cost is covered by Louviers Council. So meetings and events throughout the year. So our current membership of the society is 33 members, who each pay £15 a year in annual subscriptions. The society holds an AGM in January, and regular meetings are held on the 3rd Monday of each month, except for August and December. The committee meets on the 1st Monday of each month. And during 2020 and 2021, the society continued to meet over Zoom. When I took on the role in January 2020, I thought we were going to have a full raft of activities and trips and that sort of thing. And I find myself explaining to people much older than myself how to use Zoom as much as anything, and trying to cajole people to take part in online meetings. However, we ran a couple of successful fundraising stalls on the charity pitch on the Esplanade, selling books, DVDs, CDs, sort of kitchenware and unwanted items, together with a soft toy tombola. The Society also holds regular events throughout the year, with American lunch in August, coffee and spice in December, dinner in February, and guest speakers at regular meetings. Which brings me on to the annual grant that we received from Weymouth Town Council. Each year, the Society receives a grant of £850 from Weymouth Town Council, and has done since the Council's formation in 2019. Although this is an annual report to the Council and not a pitch for an increase in the grant, costs have risen almost everywhere in the last 2 years, while the grant has remained static at £850. For any further information, you can visit our website at www.weymouthlouviers.co.uk, and that is my report. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say. I just waiting for the noise of surprise slide. Thank you very much for that report, very interesting. Has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask?
Thank you for the report, Councillor Brooks. My question is about membership. Have you had an increase in members, or a decrease, or is it static? And do you see yourself recruiting more members?
We had a slight increase. There was, I think, a couple of people that came along for a very short period of time, but they've since moved away. So I would say over the last certainly since before the pandemic, it's remained about the same. However, a large proportion of the membership is like many other clubs and societies of its kind. Everybody's getting older, a little bit more less able to travel and do the sorts of things they used to do. But to answer your question, about the same, I would say, yeah. Which is really not bad. 33 members.
Thank you. Anybody got any further questions? Thank you.
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman, is this time of year the best time to report this, or? I've not done one of these before, and I can't remember when the Society did an annual report last time.
New councillor, I don't really have a view on that. I suggest that if you could take it away to your society, you have a conversation and come back to us with a suggestion.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Don't have any public questions. So then we move on to the grant applications.
Thank you, Chair. So the first grant application on the agenda is the one from Debtors Advice Central Dorset. Members will see that it's an application for an SLA. The application amounts to £5,000 per annum over a period of 5 years. I'll just refer members back to our meeting in December, where it was agreed that SLAs could be entered into. Applications who can demonstrate a significant impact across the town, particularly for vulnerable residents, may be considered for a long-term funding agreement. This will require the organisation to enter into a service level agreement. We have, just for those new members of this committee, had one previous SLA where it was agreed to fund to up until next year. So just to give the new council the opportunity to agree the continuation of an SLA agreement, rather than this council committing to the new council to a number of years thereafter. So we have got, I believe, Daniel from the CAG, who may want to introduce the application, Chair.
Please feel free to take.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Daniel Kadish. I'm the Chief Officer of Substitutions Central Dorset. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read the application, but just in summary, we're a volunteer-based organisation. We've been working in Dorset for 55 years. I've been working in the service for 25 years, and I can honestly say that the demand for our services has never been so high. If you combine the impact of COVID and cost of living together over the last 2.5 years, there's no doubt it's had a severe impact on people's well-being, financially and otherwise. So our core funding directly supports our team of volunteers who are based not far from us, the building here. They support increasingly the most vulnerable residents in our community across a whole range of issues, predominantly around people's finances, dealing with debt, dealing with relationship issues, and welfare benefits is the largest issue, single issue. This funding, if it was successful, will allow us to expand our core service in the Weymouth area. It will directly support supervisors, the training of additional volunteers to meet the increased demand which we're experiencing. And I think, as you see in the reports, our demand on our services increased by 90% in the year 22-23. And we've only seen that increase since that time. And unfortunately, I think we're expecting to see that demand in the community only be there for the next several years at least. So just to summarise, the funding will, if it's longer term for us, it gives us the security to plan. It allows us to recruit staff into roles and know again that funding will be there. So I respectfully request the funding of £5,000 per year over a 5-year SLA. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that. It was commendably brief, so thank you very much. Questions? Yeah.
I totally agree with citizens' advice. I'm just worried about the time limit of 5 years. We've already discussed this at previous meetings where we've only gone up to the end of this council to give the next council the opportunity to discuss it. And I think that's maybe what we should be considering. I know you probably want it for 5 years, so you know you can employ your staff. But, you know, we've done it for other organisations, so I think we ought to consider that.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I would agree as much as I support CRAG as I do. I think as Councillor Watley has said, in the past we've said that we can't necessarily commit a council beyond the end of the current council. I don't see there's any reason why CRAG can't come back next year from the new council and ask for the same amount again that will be considered on its merits, and I'm sure it'll be granted. But I understand I'm happy about committing another council for 5 years when we don't necessarily know what budgetary constraints there'll be on us and how much money there'll be available in the grants pot. So whilst I much support this, I'm just worried about committing it for 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Do we have a proposal?
Oh, go on. I was going to say we go with the recommended 5,000, but for a period of 1 year, and we leave it for the next council to decide on a 5 year. Yeah, as council can come back with a 5 year proposal, and that is what the next term of the council will be, 5 years. So that would make sense.
That's second. So we have that proposal on the table. Sorry,
I sympathise with that because we've done it before with somebody else, as we mentioned earlier on. Could we add on to that with the permission of the proposal of this one that, but with a recommendation to the next council to continue the programme for a further 4 years? Yeah. A recommendation.
Councillor, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I just didn't want. I wouldn't want to hamstring them for not coming with another 5 year plan, because that kind of neatly fits with the next council, because they're going to be we're then sticking them with 4 years in, maybe being asked for a single year application again.
No,
do you know?
Amended to 5 years.
Well, yeah, I might. Yeah, there you go. I'd be happy with that.
Okay, just for clarity then, can we go over exactly what it is? you're
Okay, so
proposing?
recommendation for 5,000 for 1 year with a recommendation to the next council to approve or extend for a further 5 years.
To consider favourably a further application for another 5 years.
So there you go. If that's agreeable to people.
Okay. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Ian, can you confirm, I think the lantern, did we give them 2 years, which would be up to the end of 24, 25?
Yeah, I think the principle behind that, Councillor Waiting, is the beginning of the year is before the full council, so they've got the application which includes next year because the funding starts on the 1st of April. So using that principle, it would be for 2 years, this year and next year.
It basically avoids the new councils having to make a decision before they're elected.
Yeah.
And then, so I would like to suggest, if the proposer's happy to amend this to run it for 2 years, so we've got that overlap, so it's within the new council's first year, they have to make a decision, not their election.
Well, it doesn't have, sorry, Chair.
So any further comments?
I would just say that it doesn't need to be on election first decision, but, you know.
There'll be a gap.
It will be, but. No, I'm not going to change the proposal. Right, you can amend it if you'd like to. But I think it needs to be fixed.
Okay, so we have a proposal. Ken, you happy to second it as it is?
That proposal, yeah.
Okay, all those in favour, please.
3, 4, 7, 8. 8 for Chair.
Okay, thank you. All those against? Any abstentions?
1, 2, 3 abstentions,
Yeah, can we just make a minuted comment that the council is very much in favour of the work of the CAB, and this isn't a reflection on whether we think it's good or not. I think it's just a reflection on the policy of being able to commit to future councils to expenditure which would have to be built into the budget for grants prior to prior to the new council being adopted.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, it's in no way is it a reflection of the work you do. It's fully supported. And it's simply the technicality of not wishing to tie the hands of the next administration comes after us.
Yeah, can I just say thank you for your support, and I do understand the restrictions you have in terms of the length of the council, so no doubt we'll be back next year for make our application, but many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the next up grant application is from Activate Performing Arts. Obviously, members have had that application, which they would have looked through, and I believe we have Kate to make this one to introduce.
Please join us.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm Kate Wood, I'm the Director of Activate Performing Arts, and we are an arts charity based in Dorchester, covering the whole of the county. And we've been here for 31 years, delivering significant engagement programs in arts in Weymouth. And this proposal as an application for support for a significant event we're going to be producing as part of our Inside Out Dorset Festival, an international outdoor free festival taking place in September. The dates are the 15th to the 24th, and it'll be the finale event, which is quite significant for us because there'll be audiences coming from BCP, from outside the area. We have events in the east of the county, in Poole, the west, and there's a finale event here. So this is about bringing communities together in Weymouth, but also attracting visitors from outside. And we've been working in the community, and we will do in the lead up. The application is for £5,000, and we believe that the programme will have significant and wide-ranging community reach. As experienced from previous Inside Out Dorset events in Weymouth, the main events will attract an estimated 5,000 people. over 2 nights and also during the day on the Saturday, and up to possibly more 200 people getting involved in outreach and engagement programs. We worked in communities in Littlemore, with All Sorted, with Avery Housing Association, and we also, again, based on evidence from evaluation we've done in the past, we've had economic impact assessments done of the festival, and we've seen that there's a return of an estimated £1 million into the county. So I think the cost of living crisis has meant that budgets are very tight, as we know from the last speaker, that actually having accessible, inclusive, free, high quality cultural events that bring the community together is really essential. We've been really appreciative of the support that this council has given to the events we've been doing in the past, and we're delighted that we are Weymouth bid are investing in this event, and we hope you'll be able to invest in it this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we open it up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions?
Do we know how much the bid are putting in, or
Yes.
is that a secret?
No, it's in the application, it's £20,000.
I feel then that we should try and give them the 5,000, which is what they asked for. I'm happy to propose that.
So it's definitely for the proposal.
Yeah.
Okay. Proposal is that it's £5,000.
Can I remind the committee that basically when that grant is applied for, we are looking for the impact on Weymouth residents and in proportion. And that's why the recommendation here before us is 3,500 and not the full 5,000, because as has been actually stated, yes, we welcome the visitors to the town, but the grants that we're applying for are usually for townspeople only.
Thank you, because in the report it says 70% of the people who participate will be from Weymouth Town.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Dixon.
Just like to second Ken's proposal.
Okay, so seconding it at
Oh, yes,
£5,000.
I'm yeah.
Any further? Councillor Lake.
I'd just like to propose the amendment to go along with the recommendation in the paper, which complies with our own rules. I don't see a reason to go against our own ruling on this one. If that were to apply, we'd be doing that in many cases. So my amendment is, as per the agenda paper, 3,500, which is 70%.
Okay, do we have a second?
Seconded.
Sorry,
Seconded.
that's seconded then, so we need to vote on the amendment first.
So Chair, can we just read the amendment, please?
So my understanding is what we are saying is that the proposal is to go with what is actually recommended in the paper, which is £3,500, proposed by Councillor Legg, seconded by Councillor Lambert.
Point of order, Chair. I think the proposal is that we go for 5,000. The amendment to the proposal
Sorry,
is
yeah,
three
my
and a
mistake,
half
yes.
thousand.
Correct, but we need to do the amendment first.
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of the amendment, who's in favour?
Five. Chair. Yep.
All those against, please.
Three.
And any abstentions? What was the end of that?
So that amendment is carried, Chair.
Okay, so the amendment is carried. Now for £3,500.
Can I put that proposal?
Okay, so the amendment is carried. We have a new proposal. Councillor Harris, £3,500. We have a second. Councillor X, second, quite a lot second, so Councillor gets the second. Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming along this evening and for presenting to us. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So the next application which we have is AsOne Theatre Company. The application amount is for 2,500, which is the recommendation there. And we have got Jane, I believe, who's
Okay, join us. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. Do I have to turn this on? Yeah. Good evening. Hello. My name is Jane McKell. I am Artistic Director and Producer for AsOne Theatre Company. We have been producing projects and new pieces of theatre for some 20, I think it's creeping up to 23 years now. Many of the projects have been like this one, which are for the community, out of the community, which sometimes go on to become touring or special pieces of new writing. This one we called They Come From Ukraine. 900 people from Ukraine fled the war and have ended in Dorset. 118 of those are still in Weymouth as we speak. What we propose to do is to gather these people together and gather their stories. Now, the community, the Dorset Community Trust have funded the majority of the project. They advised us to concentrate at this stage, because it's a 3-stage project, and we're on stage 1, to gather the stories. And what we're asking for is indeed some money to create new music and to film as a legacy the project. We have a lot of experience of this, and it works very well in that with the Jubilee project, we brought dementia patients together with a primary school, and there's a legacy of a little film that these schools can share to show the benefit of the project, so other people can see if a project works well and it's like a waterfall effect. Other people can continue to do our work. We eventually want this to become a piece of theatre, but that's not what we're doing this time. And I've gathered a lot of Ukrainians together. I have a wonderful lady who comes from Kiev, Kyiv, where she is an artistic director, and she is a qualified psychologist and arts therapist. And she's going to work with me as not only a translator, but somebody who will counsel, because although it's going to be incredibly cathartic for these people, it is a very difficult thing to share their stories, but it is important, and psychology shows us that it is a healing process. I am very experienced at these kinds of projects. I have helped many people to tell their stories, from teenage mothers through to soldiers who have been at war and have come home very damaged. The project is going to be based in Weymouth. It's going to be Weymouth Ukrainians. It's going to be Weymouth hosts that are going to be involved, and both Ukrainian children and Weymouth children. And the song particularly that we wish to create together is the main thing that will bring both parties together, especially the children. Also, it's giving jobs to wonderful practitioners, whether they be Ukrainian or they are in Weymouth. So, I can go on for a long time, I'm not going to, I'm going to stop now. You've read the proposal, I think it was quite complete in that way, and if you want to ask me any questions, I'm more than happy to respond.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor.
You talked about legacy and the film being produced. How will that be? I'm a local teacher, so I teach history. So how will that be made available? Will you be charging people for access to that, or will that be freely available?
No, I think it should be freely available to schools.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Councillor.
I've been involved with Ukrainian refugees for over a year now, and I'm very pleased to see this project, and I'd like to propose we pay the recommendation amount.
Thank you. Do we have a second now?
I'll second that, but I'd also like to make a statement. It was really pleasing to see a Ukrainian young lady going to one of our schools, coming to the youth council the other day and participating fully. So that was an excellent response to some of the things that you said.
Yes. I'd like to say to our history teacher here, sorry, Matt Bell, was it? You're welcome to come along and support what we're doing. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Do you have any further questions? So we have a proposal from Councillor Harris. Sorry, Councillor Waiting, seconded by Councillor Harris for the full amount.
Chair, I don't know if it's an amendment, but I would like to see, just off of the big back of this, because I'd love to see like a project impact report. I'd really love to see what effect that work's doing in the community, because I think it's a little bit underrated. And I think it's an opportunity for us to get hold of that data and to be able to celebrate it after we've been able to be part of the project, if that's okay.
Can I ask, how would we do that without creating too much work for yourselves?
Yeah, I don't want to create more work.
I could have another £1,000 to do that, but thank you. But yes, of course, it will be very well evaluated. We're going to actually write diaries. I did this with another project. I literally go home after a workshop and I write about it, and all the participants are going to be doing that. In terms of data, it depends what you mean by data.
For example,
do you mean figures? Do you mean effect?
To sort of, the holistic effect, of course, can't be really measured, but in terms of engagement with schools, where is the reach? What is the reach of the project?
Oh, I see.
You know, because what I'm trying to kind of gear you towards is, if you come back with another project, say next year in 2 years, it's really great to just have that kind of impact report that we can just look at it and say, oh yeah, that was really good money well spent. Or if you would like more money, then obviously you can back up what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
We always evaluate our projects, and we will be applying to the Arts Council to actually write a piece of theatre out of this as well. So it could tour nationally.
Yeah.
And I think we must remember that everything that comes out of Weymouth goes with it. But I will definitely have no problem with evaluation.
Okay, that's great. So that can be done.
Being done, it will be done, yes.
That's over there. Sorry, Lucy, that's Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to, support this very much. And I think I'm right in saying that, is there not some evaluation as standard with all the grants we give? And that's an important part of the feedback process, because we know how much these grants mean to the community. So it's great to be able to tell the community. And I think this is a fantastic project, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Can we proceed to the vote then? Unanimous, thank you very much.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you very much for coming on tonight, for presenting to us. Okay.
Moving on, Chair. The next one's Trident BJJ Weymouth, which I believe I've spotted somebody from this group somewhere in the back. There's a few there, so.
Please come and join us. The floor is yours.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for considering our application. We are a newly formed non-profit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club in Weymouth. Our goal is to grow the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the local community and provide a safe, clean, family-friendly environment for our members to train. As you can see and here behind us, most of our members do have young children, the oldest of which are starting to join in with the classes, and the young warriors who stay at the side of the mat will be joining in the near future. Unlike most of the jiu-jitsu clubs out there, none of our instructors are actually using this project as a source of income. We are all volunteers, and that allows us to make the training more affordable for all members of the community. Any surplus to that is reinvested into the club, and that allows us to do things like subsidising competition fees for especially our younger members who are starting to get onto the scene. Long term, we're looking to grow to a permanent residence at children's classes and school programs and make it more accessible to the wider community. Additionally, we'd love to have a small creche for the young warriors, as I said, close to the mats. This will allow couples to train together or give one parent a much needed and well-deserved rest. And the funding we are requesting is for essential items such as mats and countdown clock. That's where the bulk of the funding will go, and small, tiny amounts of cleaning supplies to make sure that that the mats are always clean for people to roll on. All of our instructors are working to be enhanced DBS checked, have a child safeguarding policy training and first aid training, so that we can provide a really safe environment to all of our members. Thank you very much for your consideration. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay, thank you very much. So let's open the floor to questions. Any questions? Councillor Ecker.
This is just for clarification, really, because in your application, you say you've got 20 members. You say 95% come from Weymouth. Where you hold these meetings is, I don't know if you're actually in Chipperell or whether you're still in Weymouth, but I'm not quite sure whereabouts in Green Lane. But I'm just querying that only one of your 20 members comes from Chipperell. Or elsewhere outside Weymouth.
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of the members are behind us, and almost everyone resides in within Weymouth. We have one member who comes down from Sherborne, actually, but yes, almost everyone is living within Weymouth.
Councillor Bell.
I've actually been in communication with Mark via email over the recent weeks, and quite clearly, looking around the room, there's a real passion for this club. And I think if we can give a contribution towards getting that off the ground, we've got all these people in the room willing to drive it forward. And that gives me the confidence that money is going to be used brilliantly. Sections of the application talking about bringing it to different parts of the community is just superb. I'm a young dad. I know how hard it is to get out and exercise when you're on daddy daycare duty, and having that ability to have them there as well. Sat around at the back, superb. Got one of my students sat at the back there, and anything that gets him off his phone, I am in full support of. So has my absolute firm backing. One thing I would like to propose is, to my mind, it seems a little bit, I understand the rationale, but knocking it down by roughly £150, I would like to see it put back up to the application amount. This is a new club, they need the funding. I understand the principle of why it's being knocked down, but I think on this occasion, we can see the passion in the room for it. I would like to see it knocked up.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lambert.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'm almost convinced by Councillor Bell there, but I do feel I've got to say that this is only 20 members, and it appears that it is a startup project, and there is an argument for supporting startup projects. But the cold reality is that at the moment, 20 members into 2,800 is getting on for £100 each. This council is under a lot of pressure from grant monies, and I therefore do have a problem with this. I'm yet to be convinced that this is going to benefit a significant proportion of Weymouth residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, and I understand your concerns. Any further points, comments, questions?
Might be able to come back on that.
Yes, but you go, Councillor Bell to come back, and then Councillor Lake.
Well, I was just going to suggest that Mark's allowed to respond to that, because there's talk in the application about the growth of the club and how it's going to move forward into different demographics. I'd like to hear how that's going to happen.
Can I come in first?
Yeah, okay, yes, come on.
Because I want to partly answer that. Membership, I imagine, is just applies to adults in your case, is it? You're not counting a family of 5, would that take up 5 members?
In the 20 members, we've only included the adult memberships.
Yeah, so we're talking about further more than 20 benefiting from it. We're talking about the families and children of the parents as well. So it is more than 20 at the moment, let alone what it might expand to. Thank you, Chair.
It's also very early days.
Sorry, just come back there, you got me first, mate.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it is very early days. We founded the club less than 2 months ago. The support from the people that are interested and are involved has been amazing so far. And we want to expand and offer it to more people, add children's classes, adult classes, potentially going to schools to teach, anything we can do to support local charities through the club. We would love to be involved in, so we really do want to help where we can as well.
Thank you for that. Councillor Thurman.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think more of a broader point rather than the application itself, but just to speak on Councillor Lambert's point about the number and the amount that it affects. I think it's important to take view that we want a community that has a broad offering of lots and lots of activities and sports. We don't want to fund and give grant money based on the popularity of a sport, but rather the approach that the community can take towards what it offers its residents. So I think, like Mark's saying, and I appreciate that I'm a member of this club, but I think there's a broader point here about the fact that when clubs come to us, particularly startup clubs, there is always a big capital spend that's needed. You know, when the basketball club came to us last year, they needed kits and we gave it to them. You know, and that wasn't hundreds of people. This was within 100. But it's really important as a community leader organisation that we are able to support that huge variety that we need in our community. Okay, you know, that's what I want to say.
Having trouble with the IT. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the policies of Weymouth Town Council is to look after the well-being of its population. And I think this fits very closely and very well into that idea. But I'm afraid I've got to disagree with my colleague in terms of changing the amount, because I don't think we should be changing our principles just in one place and not in others. So we stick to our principles. If the principles are wrong, we can review that and change the policy. But at this point in time, the principle, it's not a huge amount that we would be recommending. It's different from the amount that you were recommending, but it's a great idea, and so I would support it for the tune of £2,801.62.
Councillor
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I would have to agree with Councillor Harrison that we do have a policy on this, and it's clearly a worthwhile project. But if we don't stick to that policy, then it makes it difficult for future applications, I think, and it's only a very small amount of difference, but I think we have to stick to that policy. There's always an opportunity for any club to come back in future years with funding, when they'll know how many members they've got, how many of those come from Weymouth, etc. But I think there is an issue here that we do need to stick to policy.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yeah, just a point of clarity, because this is my first time I've sat on the committee. Could any members or officers just point me to that as an example of how the policies affected that application in that particular number, for example?
So were you questioning how we went from the higher figure down to the?
Yeah, just in relation to the policy, because that's been mentioned a couple of times, so I just wanted to frame that in my mind.
So I think in this respect, in the simplest terms, if a project, if there was 100% beneficiary who all came from Weymouth, they'd get 100% of the grant. If 50% of the people who would benefit came from Weymouth and 50 outside, they would get 50%. Members do have the gift to make case by case basis, but that's a principle behind it. That makes sense.
So it goes on that number.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'd just ask Mark, how many adult members do you have at the moment?
20, it says it here.
20. But the application went in how long ago?
Yes, yeah. Still around 20 members.
Oh, okay. And also, what is the difference in the £150 of your spend, do you think?
2,800 is a very generous amount to start us off, and it will cover the maps, which is the biggest cost.
No, that 150, is that making a huge impact to the club?
It's the countdown clock and mops would be the main thing, so it's
no, just so we can, just so I can in my mind see that we're not taking away from what's really needed, and then there's some extra bits as well. So yeah, that's fair enough. So yeah, I agree with Councillor Harrison. Absolutely.
Okay, any further comments, questions? Councillor Bell's comment earlier about getting the child, getting his nose out of his phone, getting his hand his granddad, I would appreciate that as well.
Can I propose the recommendation as shown?
So proposed by Councillor Harris, do we have a second? Councillor Nicholson seconded it. Okay, all those in favour, please. Okay, 9-4. Those against, please. Those abstaining. Thank you very much for coming. Public, you are free to go. Before you all run for the door, I don't know what my fellow councillors think, but the fact we've had such a fabulous turnout tonight, it just shows a real vibrancy and interest in community activity in the town, and it's brilliant to see.
I was hoping for demonstrations.
Is he going to say your time, Pete? Is it Tim Crawford?
Okay, Chair, so if we're moving on, if we go to the application from St Nicholas Church, and we've got Susanna here to introduce the application.
Good evening, thank you for allowing me to put this application through. I sent quite a lot of extra added documents because we weren't a sort of standard club, so trying to explain, what we're all about. So hopefully you've been able to read that. But I thought I'll just reiterate very quickly, hopefully for you. We are a church which unfortunately through quite a few years of lack of work being done to it, neglect, it's grade 2 listed and it needs a lot of repairs. And when I came on board into the church, I thought, well, what's the way of repairing the church, but also wanting to do something for the community. So I had the thoughts of having fundraising concerts, and then it suggested quiz nights. And half of the proceeds we always will donate to a hopefully local charity. And then the other half goes to the restoration fund of the church. And the reason that we have to raise money ourselves is because the Church of England doesn't give money to the restoration of its churches, and applying for grants, we have to show that we're trying to, we're getting money ourselves for it. So the first concert that we held, I organised, was last June, and I think you've seen the details on it, that we raised £377 for the RNLI in Weymouth, and there's a whole list of events that have gone through where we've raised money for the Veterans Hubs, Julia's House Children's Hospice, Wessex Heartbeat, Fisherman's Mission, and then we're also having the Go Girls charity, which is a cancer charity helping women with gynecological cancers. We raise money for them. And then our next event is this Friday, and the money is going to the charity #WillDoes, which is a local charity. And I said at the time, so far 60 tickets have been sold, it's now over 80. And through doing all of this and our next, going forward, our next events, which again, I've made a list of, some of them we haven't chosen a charity yet, but I've been approached by charities to hold events for them. For example, the Coast Watch Institution, the National Coastal Watch Institution at Portland Bill approached me and asked me if I would do a charity for them. MV Freedom, our quiz night in the end of July, they approached me, and again, it's lovely to do something for a local charity. And then we have donation buckets. We give free teas, coffees and squashes, and we just say, if you'd like to make a donation, that would be lovely. The money then from those donation boxes goes to the charity of that night. I've got a great team of people in the church that not only come to the church, but we also have a lot of people that don't come to the church. They're not church goers, but they are helping us. They help us set up, they help us borrow the equipment when I have to go and ask for various places. Can we borrow tables, chairs, cutlery, crockery? Everybody sort of volunteers and helps. Littlemore Community Centre, the two ladies there are fabulous. They're going to help decorate the church fabulously for the concert this Friday. So, a lot of people will make cakes for us if we need them for events. So it's part of the community, and a lot of people advertise our events on businesses, fence posts, windows. Just so many people are being now seen since last June. The church is alive with events and people wanting to come, people enjoying them, people wanting to help, people making donations. And that's the great thing that has come about this. It obviously also has helped us repair the church tower, which was going to fall into the church, the bell tower and the two bells. It's obviously helped us do that. But I think the most important thing for me and for us in the church is that it is seen as a community venue. We are going to start in September a sort of parent toddler group. The idea is once a week, well, we would start off maybe once a month to see how it goes, and then hopefully once a week, people dropping off children at school can come to us afterwards with their toddlers, or if they're not at school, come, and parents get to meet each other, children get to play. We'll have music, we've got percussion instruments and things, and the idea of that is holding it free of charge. If somebody wants to make a donation, or if somebody wants to bring biscuits or cakes or something one day, they can do. But the idea is to get the community together. I started a coffee morning on a Thursday to raise money for the church, but we never ever charge. the idea behind that was again to get people to come to the church, chat, make friendships, have a cup of tea, coffee. Homemade cakes are a must. That I have now a cake rota where gentlemen and ladies make cakes for it. And it's done and people are enjoying it and friendships are being made. I know personally that when I go there most Thursdays and help run it, that there have been people who've been widowed and been very lonely, and especially with COVID, and now they've got friendships. And then we're wanting to start a lunch club, and it's going to be something very simple like soup and sandwiches and rolls, but have puzzles and games or cards if people want to do it. And again, any age can come, donations only if they want to. The main point is that we have people that are making friendships and not feeling lonely, and hopefully a little bit of warmth maybe in the winter as well. So I don't know if there's anything else that I can say that I haven't put in my report to you, all my different bits of reports, but we haven't got the tables. I think I said in the report the amount of tables we have. We've got 3 large ones and 6 small ones, and not enough chairs for all our events. Our last charity quiz night, there were 94 people attending, so we don't have plates ourselves. We have crockery, but just bowls. We have, so again, you've seen my report. I really just want to say, would anybody ask any questions?
You've given us a full comprehensive
Sorry.
application, so that's fine. So yeah, like I say, yes, we'll move on to questions now. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask?
Yes, thank you. I think this is an excellent project. I think it's a very sad reflection on how the Church of England spends its money, that we're not prepared to pay towards keeping churches in a good state of repair. I'm afraid I think some of the actions of our friend Justin Welby and how the Church of England money is spent are sadly wrong, but I would very much like to support this. I think it's an excellent community event, and I would oppose it, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor.
Could I ask a question off the back of that, please, Councillor Nixon? You might have a bit more, it sounds like you've got a bit more knowledge. So what is the difficulty with applying to the Church of England for funding such as this, rather than coming to council? Feel free to jump in, whoever.
So for example, for the grants for any repairs, any church around the country, we have to apply to charities for grants. I think I mentioned in my report, the Dorset Historic Church Trust kindly gave us £10,000 for the stonework to be done and the guttering around it. And there's certain charities that will do certain grants. The church doesn't. We pay a percentage of the income we get from the church services to the church as well.
And because I know that this isn't for structural stuff, this is for
no.
stuff going. So
Yeah.
are there opportunities within the Church of England to apply for grants for this stuff?
No, not that I'm aware of. And
Okay.
no, and
Got my support.
well, no, and I mean, I'm quite passionate about it because I've just seen the church become a part of the community. And
Yeah.
please come to one of our events this year, quiz night as well, 6p on a team. But it's just so nice to see people helping us that don't come to church, that want to be looking after, from gardening to cake making to anyway. So.
Yeah, look, thank you so much.
Sorry.
I did know that as
Yeah.
a matter of fact, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, with the 2 councillors who have already spoken. I mean, the Church of England is one of the richest organisations in this nation. And it does seem weird to me that their members are having to come cap in hand to the general population. The work you're doing sounds fantastic. As a community enterprise, this is marvellous and we should support it. But I should be voting for it through gritted teeth if one can do that.
Should be a spectacle to watch.
Can I just sort of mention very quickly that obviously it's a lot of money, but these tables, I have even looked at trying, I've spent months and other people on the church trying to buy second-hand ones and things, so they, you know, tried to get, and then we need obviously plates and cutlery, which is why it's that amount.
Getting a feeling that we got support in the room. So,
Oh, okay.
Vote, Chair, please.
Yes. So we have a proposer, Councillor Livingston?
Yes. Yes, sorry.
What a way to go, I know. So for the full amount?
Yeah.
Yes. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please.
Before you vote, Chair, you just said full amount.
Yeah.
What were you referring to when you said full amount?
Recommended.
Recommended, thank you. Everybody agrees, so just.
Yes. Thank you, watching the pennies. Okay, so slightly, those in favour, please. Those against? Any abstentions? One abstention.
Thank you so much. Come to one of our dues.
Point to the Archbishop. Tell him he's coming up money.
But it's down this weekend, so perhaps you can, yeah, poke him, because it's down this weekend, isn't it?
Thank you, Chair. So we move on to grant applications. So that's the ultimate one is from Air 107.2. And we have, I believe, Malcolm, who's here, is going to briefly introduce it. So for your 2 minutes, Malcolm, the floor is yours.
Chair, and a very good evening. Thank you very much for seeing me. I'm Malcolm Can. I'm a volunteer director at AIR, a community interest company. I'm really representing all the volunteers at AIR. We've been broadcasting to Weymouth for over 10 years. We've recently, I'm talking about last week, moved out of Westfield Arts College. This has really forced us to look at what we're all about and repurpose and remodel the radio station so that we can be a pivotal voice in the community that we broadcast to. We can't afford studio space. We've got a couple of vacant rooms, and what we want to now do is offer a much fuller service to the community of Weymouth. The Westfield move, very good terms. Space was needed for educational use, so quite rightly so. I think at 10 years we were protected. We didn't have to worry about electricity and all the on costs until we find ourselves in the situation we are now. So we've really thought out this model. And what we're asking for is specialist software that will enable us to be in many locations across Weymouth and not restricted to a single studio location. This will let us engage with new, lots of hard to reach groups and individuals and become a voice for the town. I think because of location and what Westfield stands for and the wonderful work they do with the children, it was very restrictive in terms of radio station because members of the public, local people, etc., can access the college. So there's an opportunity here to really relaunch AIR for the residents, the charitable enterprises, and the commerce of it. That's better. I should know that, how these things work. Where my voice was going. So it's very much to become heart and soul of Weymouth and the town. To aid the recruitment of volunteers, we're also asking for a small amount of money towards print costs so that we can explain what this is all about and how individuals can really have a real voice, their voice, not a national voice, but their voice, and make a genuine change. So your support this evening for the application will give a service that I believe Weymouth deserves and something everybody can be proud of. It will give many new people a voice, as I mentioned before, a portal for all the events and promotions of the numerous activities available in this wonderful town. And just being here this evening, I've met several wonderful organisations. We didn't know one another, and these are the people that we should be telling the rest of Weymouth about. So thank you. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Watley.
Have you've moved out of Westfield, but have you got a studio that says to interact with studio base? So are you going to have a studio base, or is this going to be in private houses with equipment which?
No, we have, I can't disclose where it is. We have been offered, subject to a board meeting tomorrow, some individual rooms on the esplanade, which will give us a really central location. It's not suitable for a single studio. We have to coexist with the volunteering on fundraising, finding out events, etc. So it will be, I think I would describe it as a production studio, principally to get people in to do interviews so they can be hosted within programming, but also to add it to the website, etc.
Thank you.
Do you have any further questions?
What I'd like to propose, we support this application, and these members I do listen to Air the breakfast show most days when I'm working, and I know it's a useful resource because it's one of the better ways to hear what's going on in town. So I support what the station does, and I hope the committee will support this application.
Do we have a second? Councillor. And we are just to be trying to clarify what about the recommendation.
Recommendation.
Thank you. So we move to the vote. Those in favour?
5, 6, 8, 9.
Those against? Those abstaining? 2. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on swiftly to the last grant application of the evening, members will recognise this application which came before this committee at the end of April. It was requested that this grant was reviewed in the CE group, of which Councillor Harris and Lambert are here tonight. It has been considered by them, and it has been requested that this comes back to form part of the normal grant application. Councillor Harris will maybe clarify for that.
Thank you very much, Ian. Yes, the working group, which has about 8 to 10 active members on it, decided that it was not something that the present money that we have allocated to us from the town council should be spent on, although it's very much part of our agenda. The reserve that we have, although in the papers that have been presented tonight further on in the agenda suggests there's £24,000 in the reserve, most of that has been actually allocated already to other projects and had been back in April. And so there is only actually £3,000 available in our reserve at the present point in time. Grants are for the community or charity groups, as they heard tonight, to add something to enhance their communities. They often assist something that the council would like to support, but has not got the funding allocated for it. There's a specific project within its plans. As a council, we voted to try and become carbon neutral by 2030. And the new plan again, which is in the papers tonight, suggests that one of the ways, or possibly the only way in which we're going to achieve this, is if all the community are involved. We've got to get residents, we've got to get businesses, we've got to get others actually to help us achieve that target. Now, there is no way that the council can do that with its own staff and resources. It needs other people to help us. And we have got a charity who is willing to do that. It's a big issue for us to achieve that plan that we all voted for, to try and achieve this carbon neutral situation back in 2019, when the council started. We can't manage that process with just our own resources. And so to have a community charity group willing to help in this way, by actually talking to members of the public, by having information that they can provide to members of the public, seems to be a massive amount of support. We've been giving out grants to many organisations who are inclusive, including some at this meeting, carrying out government responsibilities. The amount of money that we've given to those that are in need of some form of support, food or whatever, totally correct. You know, we should be considering those people, but this may be part of our policy, therefore, but it's not part of a policy we can achieve on our own. So to have these, this help and support offered to us by a charity seems to be a very helpful opportunity. So I would recommend that we give them the grant as asked.
Yes, thank you, Chair. At the last meeting when this was considered, we felt that the council should have some editorial input into these documents, because it was noted there were some errors in the leaflet that we saw. Do we know what's happening about having that editorial input?
Sorry,
I think I was going to start you to ask to bring you two in, because we're your members of the group, so please join us.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think as I said last time, I'm quite happy for there to be some editorial input. Since the last meeting, we have gone through an error check that should have got so far. So I'm pretty confident that's all in place now. But yeah, I can see that perhaps it's a good idea that if the council's funding it, you should at least. But I don't quite know how you propose that to work. But we can send a text to someone beforehand so that you know what will be on the leaflets.
Just to sort of talk about the practicalities here, how do you see that working?
I'm looking at our comms officer who sat back of the room, and I'm sure that if you sent it in by an email, we could proof or check it before anything was distributed.
So that doesn't seem to be too problematic at all. Okay, so that's fine. That's the answer.
Hi there. Can you tell us how you're fundraising? Because the total project cost is 2,990, and this is the only application tonight that's been recommendation is to give them the full amount. So
Right.
how are you raising funds at the moment, or is that it?
Well, we have applied for grants from a couple of places and we're unsuccessful. So far, only funding's come from donations from the trustees of the charity. But we're very new. Yeah, and we're hoping, it's something you may have heard, where we've got the use of St. Nicholas Gallery in town for the next week, Great Big Green Week. We'll put on a whole week of events. I'm hoping that will, you know, yeah, but big donations there, but also great so far. Yeah.
Okay, any further questions?
Yeah, thanks. So again, apologies members for my lack of knowledge on the policy for this. I have tried to get my head around it, but it often just takes somebody to tell me. So it talks about producing 6 leaflet information stands and providing advice information signposts. I'm just thinking in my head, is this that seems like an ongoing cost rather than a capital cost? And I was under the understanding that the grants were for capital spends, not ongoing spends. And I appreciate that the 6 leaflets will be, paid for, but I presume there's more coming after that. So that would be an ongoing cost for a project such as this, would it? Happy to be corrected.
Well, the bulk of that cost would be for the stands themselves, which would be capital cost. Yes, you're right, we would need to replenish the stocks of leaflets from time to time, but including that funding, I think that we estimate that would be enough for about 6 months to a year. But we wouldn't, well, we'd be looking to finance any further printing costs ourselves, so we'd provide other means.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, I think it's how you look at it, project. If the funding's for a one-off project, which is to produce so many leaflets, and there isn't any ongoing staffing costs, which, you know, were committed as part of that funding, then you could sort of see that that's just a project in its own right rather than ongoing. So it's sort of contained within that.
Yeah.
If it was for staffing, which is to continue year on year, then obviously that's slightly different. But it's just how you want to look at it.
Yeah, thank you. The only thing is, Chair, I just think about in relation to other community organisations that might, for example, a basketball team, for example, would have their project might be, oh, well, we want to run a kids team for a year, but actually it's going to continue after that. So I don't want to just get us caught into something that is actually going to be going on and on, which is I'm more confident in the information stands than the rest.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. This is the second time this has come to the committee, and I was sat in the back cheap seat last time, and now I'm here. In principle, we do fund startup projects. So if this charity came back to us to replenish these leaflets next year, we'd say no, that's a recurring cost now. But like the Jiu-Jitsu club, we've set in their startup costs and stuff like that. So I don't have a problem with it from that point of view.
Okay.
And I was in the CEE group that's also discussed this matter as well. It is an unusual one. We've not had an application like it. That doesn't mean we reject it just because it's different. I think we have to consider it. It does meet some of our council goals, and it is a community group registered in Weymouth. So it is a little bit of a different one.
Can I add something? So this is that. I'm sorry, I did not finish.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So I mean, this is basically the start of the start of something bigger. Our aim is, what we started is to set up Weymouth Climate Hub, and we're already in the process of doing that. And the idea of these leaflets is that we're getting the information out to all the communities across Weymouth and informing people and signposting them to Weymouth Climate Hub, where they can get more information, more guidance, more help about what they can do and what the issues are. Yeah, I just wanted to put that in there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Ken?
Yeah, have you been, I think I've seen a leaflet telling me about behind Tesco's.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And you know, I can't remember when I've seen the leaflet. I think it might have come through the door.
Well, that's great if someone's doing that, but we haven't.
I was going to say, have you? I mean, is that a permanent relationship or just a one-off?
It's a one-off where we're kind of seeing how this week goes, and we'll be negotiating with the landlord after that to see where we go from there.
Yeah, because I nearly got round to you, but I'm afraid I ran out of time. But,
That's okay, because it's next week, so you can still read.
Okay, thank you.
You should have had an invite actually, but you should all have invites with the program attached to the email. So yeah, it starts Saturday, runs on to the following Saturday, called Great Big Green Week.
Sorry, I'll certainly have one. Any further questions? Councillor.
Yeah, thanks for coming for a second time. I think Councillor Harris has made some important points. This complements exactly the work of the council. It's a difficult one because it's an extremely pressing issue. I think I have two concerns. One is that the nature of the information is going to change, isn't it? And a leaflet feels old school to me. I'm just not sure that that's the right way of reaching the audience. When we have heard about the possibilities of radio and the press, I just wonder the more dynamic understanding from younger people, that's going to be online, isn't it? And we've got many online sources of information, so that's one concern I have. And then secondly, I am delighted to see the Great Big Green Week in St Nick's, and I'm hoping that the charity would be able to use other community spaces in getting set up. I think in our recent consultation on the neighbourhood plan, I think we understood the principle is we have to go where the people are. We can't expect them to come to us. So those are my reservations, but I absolutely support that this is something that council doesn't have budget for, and we need to get the message out. So thank you.
Yeah, can I respond? Yes, please do. Yeah, so as to the online thing, I mean, we've had a website already. We've got a TikTok channel, whatever that is, and Instagram. I mean, we're hitting those channels as well. But I mean, we've got to bear in mind not everyone is on the internet. You know, there's internet poverty out there, and people have different ways of receiving the information. And I think this is sort of putting it out there into the places that people go, the kind of places you were just talking about. People will see it, it'll catch their eye, hopefully, and that will be a start of something, hopefully. I mean, the other difference is that our information is very localised. Quite often refers to, you know, shops and places within Weymouth itself, which probably isn't out there on the internet or not easy to find. What's the second one?
Just about the spaces and.
Right. Yeah, I mean, another of our ideas is to follow up, not just putting leaflets down there, but to go on tour, if you like, put on events, workshops, whatever form it takes in each of the places as well to back that up. Okay.
And I've got a bonus question. Part of the whole issue, and I'm sure you're aware, is each of us feeling completely dwarfed by this challenge. So I hope that the range of leaflets here includes that empowerment that every little action makes a difference, and time we've got is now.
Yeah, there's a section on each leaflet. They're mainly broken down into 4 different sections. What are the problems? What can we do as individuals to help sort it out? Then there's a couple of questions to make people think some more, but then there's a section about what more can be done at a national or international level. But there's always a focus on individual action on each leaflet as well as the bigger picture.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, again, I think I'm going back to the leaflets. I hate to harp on about this, but I've just, looked at the application and the applicants are spending over £1,000 on leaflets and £50 on social media. That's not a balance. I don't know if that's ironic that a climate climate group would print that many. It does seem like an extraordinary amount. That's nearly half of, probably 30% of Weymouth's population. But I do think in terms of the potential of reaching people that I appreciate the internet poverty stuff, but our young people and our young families like my own and Councillor Bell's, we're all, we're online, and I think there's more I'd like to see. If I saw applicant, I'd like to see more effort funding going into not the old school leaflet, because I think there's a real danger of wasting 18,000 leaflets. That's a lot. So I'm not comfortable doing this. And also in the application, it talks about how else are you raising money going forward, and it was a one-off donation of 500, and then there was I think a £50 like a fee. I think it's a £50 fee or a crowd fund £50. I don't. That's not a great amount for crowdfunding. I'd like to see some more activity around giving money to organisations that are proactive in that area. I'm a little confused, and I apologise, members, that I keep asking questions to lengthen the meeting, but on the policy and how this goes. this feels like we're outsourcing something, and if it is that, I'd like to know that. Are we outsourcing what we can't do, essentially?
So ask the applicant to come back to us on the points you made.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there were a few. Yeah, but as I said before, I mean, every angle of pushing it out there is going to be important. And I think on the subject of young people, I think they're much more aware of the issues than the grown-ups. And grown-ups are more likely to read the leaflet, I think, than go and find a website or a TikTok video that tells them. So I think every applicant, you're right, you know, that our next focus probably will be having more of an online presence and pushing that further. But at the moment, I think this is a good place to start.
Okay, thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. I just would like to remind members, we're not here to write grant applications tonight. The applicants have kindly written them out and told us what they'd like to do. We are here to either approve them or not. So I don't want us to fall into the trap of trying to tell our applicants what they should do. But they come and tell us what they want to do. Our decision is whether we're going to fund it. So that's just to simplify what we're trying to do. In order to move this along a bit, I think I shall propose it so we can vote on the matter. So I'm happy to propose the recommendation.
We have a proposer. Do we have a second? Second, David Harris. So, okay, we're straight to the vote.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
I did share some of the concerns about the old-fashioned printed leaflet and the newer IT social ways of getting around and getting information out. My opinion is that in actual fact there's room for both. Well, not only room for both should be employed all the time. And if I can just do one bit of personal evidence, if you like, on this, young people do get a lot of social media, but those of you not in our party, please just close your ears a minute. A lot of young people like having a letter because they don't get them. And they like reading leaflets because or if they get given them, because they don't get given them, or not very much. And you'd be surprised at the response you can get from that to young people as well. So I don't think necessarily it's just older people that would appreciate it, though I do expect that most of the information that gets out to younger people will be in their way of receiving it. I'm going to go along with this and see how it goes. And after all, we probably won't be funding leaflets in future because that'd be a recurring expense if we're only doing a one-off start. So on the basis that we won't get this again, a similar request for the revenue type of expenditure incurred here, then I'm going to vote for it.
Thank you very much. I've got to say, I think if I was the applicant, I'd be somewhat confused by political parties telling the leaflets was a good idea. Yes.
The third time, thank you, sir. I will offer an amendment on this that I'd like to recommend that we go with 2,500. On the basis that we shouldn't be paying for 18,000 leaflets. I think that's not good.
Okay, I think we need to move to some votes.
That's fine, yeah.
We have an amendment proposed. So does anybody wish to second the amendment? The tumbleweed is blown through the
It's fine.
So the amendment fails.
Fine.
So we're back to the original proposal, which was Councillor Weymouth.
The recommended amount.
The recommended amount, seconded by Councillor Harris. Those in favour, please. Those against? 2. Any abstentions? 2. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming along and presenting to us tonight.
Thank you very much, and thank you to you all at the Climate Hub next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I have to leave.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.
We all have to leave.
Hey.
I'm just conscious of the time, we still got quite a few things to get through.
We will keep going and try to speed up. Okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. So it's quite timely, actually, this report comes following the last grant because it actually ties together quite nicely. So the purpose of this report is to bring forward the draft CE plan and request from Finance and Governance Committee to approve the allocation of £20,000 to the Climate and Ecological Emergency CE Working Group to be able to progress the work of the Council's decarbonisation plan, which is already has already been approved, and the draft CE plan for Weymouth, which is being worked on and being brought forward now. The decarbonisation plan, which was approved a while ago and has been worked on for the last 18 months, covers scope 1, 2 and 3 of our own council emissions, and work is ongoing up until 2030, where we hope to be working towards or achieving carbon net zero. The new plan, which is a CE plan for Weymouth, so outside of just the council's emissions and actions, aims to reduce climate and ecological impact across the town, engage with residents, businesses and visitors to understand and take action too on the climate emergency agenda. The new plan will be split into category A, which is our town council responsibilities, category B, which is probably a Dorset Council or other external partner whose responsibility, but the town council will hopefully lobby and work with to create actions in those areas. And category C, which relies on community awareness raising and communication. Within the report, I put down the 12 priority actions that would be looked at first from the draft plan being put forward as a focus for the money being asked for and also officer time to put action in place. Another important link is the cross-cutting objectives from the Weymouth Town Council's Weymouth Neighbourhood Plan, which links to the actions and the policies within that plan. Also, the plan links to Dorset Council's climate plan and emission statement. So again, it's looking at where those partnerships can be made to create that bigger impact. And prioritising the set annual actions, as I've stated, makes it clear what we're aiming to do in each year. The plan gives the council a real opportunity to act as a catalyst for encourage widespread community action. And as has already been stated in the last element, that the council can't do this on our own. We need those partnerships, we need the community to buy in, and we need that collective response to those impacts happen. And the link with the CRAG group that I've just presented, we've actually got 3 members that are part within that working that have come through the neighbourhood plan working group, steering group, sorry, that actually help support those actions. They're being really helpful in terms of developing the plan and that community element of how we'll get the plan out and engage with the community on a real practical level. Regular reporting back through the services committee for the plan and the actions and the priorities that have been stated will happen, and the £20,000 alongside project officer 4 days a week, but split between the new post and the existing post to be able to deliver against those priorities is what we're proposing. The plan will help to protect and enhance what we already have in Weymouth, but it will also help to help with mitigation actions that can limit or reverse harmful practices that we can then put forward in a positive way and hopefully make those carbon emissions come down, which improves the environment for everyone that lives in or visits Weymouth. I think that's about what I was going to put forward.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Councillor Lambert, then Councillor.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Ben. This has been a very big piece of work, and the important thing to recognise is that it's a work in progress. The document you received is being changed, not on a daily basis, but we're still working regularly on it as a working group. We've met 5 or 6 times, I would say, over this, and we've still got an awful lot of work to do. it represents a real step forward for Weymouth Town Council in that thus far we have tended to be looking in on our own actions, quite rightly, because we're certain that we can have immediate impact there. And the question that I asked earlier shows the impact that we're having within the town council. But the issue of climate change and ecological destruction is so great that we can't do this on our own. We need the help of others, and we need to look out and reach out to others, as Ben has indicated here. So I commend this to you, members, and hope you will go along with it. If there are minor issues, please talk to me about them, because it may well be that we either haven't thought it through fully, which we haven't, or that we're happy to make changes, because this needs to be input by every single person in Weymouth, ideally, because every single person in Weymouth is being affected potentially. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can fully understand what we're trying to do. What I can't quite get my ideas around is this 20,000. How are we actually? What are we actually spending it on? Because it seems to me, is this officer time, or what is it? Because it seems to me, if it's officer time, we're just giving money back to ourselves. Is it going to an outside organisation to help, or what is it actually doing? This 20,000. This is what I can't understand, because we're doing this policy, we're doing this, but what's the 20,000 actually doing?
Ben, could you help us there?
Sure, yeah. So the 20,000, so the list within the report gives 12 sort of actions across. So there's more actions within the plan that was as part of the appendix. So some of those, some of the money will be specifically against making those actions work within the initial year. And some of that will, well, quite a lot of it, and that's why the request is only for 20,000, is officer time, and there'll be a lot of that officer time, hence why there's 4 days within there to do a lot of research, do a lot of the sort of legwork to get some of those projects through to a more deliverable phase, which will then be able to earmark more specific amounts against individual items. I haven't got a full plan in front of me, but within there we have split out some of the key sort of parts that break down the initial 20,000.
Sorry, Chair, can I just come back? So what we're saying is we are voting to give 20,000 to increase officer time.
No.
Well,
no. So within the plan, like I say, I haven't got the full breakdown with all the costings within the plan, but as part of the appendix, there's figures within that break down the 20,000 within those 12 priority actions.
Can I help Ben on this one? Chairman, are you happy for me to come in here?
Oh, please do.
The office, most of the plan that we're bringing to you is a 5-year plan. The first year is a lot of research so that the next council will have information in front of them to determine how much is needed for implementing most of that activity. So the officer time is already being planned to be built into the system. The actual staffing has been restructured that enables this to happen. So we're not looking for any new staff. It's already in the staffing proposals that went through council earlier or in the last financial year. So we're not looking for any new staffing, but a lot of the work that we're putting into this plan will require the staffing to do it that we've already got. However, some of the activity that we're going to be taking to the services committee to get their approval of the action that we want to undertake in this first year of the 5-year plan will require some capital to it be used to deliver some aspects of that. And what we're asking the finance committee is to put that 20,000 in, subject to the services committee, who should be determining the actions. For the services committee, if they don't approve the plan, we don't need that 20,000. The whole thing comes to a halt. But if they approve the plan, they will have seen when they get it at their next meeting they will see exactly what we propose to pay in that 20,000 on.
So can I just, so what we're saying is we will need to buy some equipment in that.
Some aspect, if you take E2, target some grants for climate smart initiatives, because we might want to try 1 or 2 things out in order to be able to say to next council, you know, we tried this, it didn't work. We tried this, that looked good. We tried this, that looked good. So it's doing that sort of research in the activities that we're putting into the plan in order to produce something that will need more capital next time, but possibly less.
The staffing costs, presumably, we've already budgeted that in anyway, haven't we? We've budgeted in for staffing.
That's right.
So that's why I'm a bit unsure about where this 20,000 is, particularly just giving it back to ourselves. Because we've
no, it's not to that.
Can I just break it? Can I just try and simplify this a bit? The money is not for staff. The staff is already paid for. It's a £20,000 pot for things which we don't yet know what actually they might be, but it's a reasonable amount of money to put aside because we know we're going to need some money. And services will be in charge of actually, it's all there.
If we want to spend that money, it will be at the services committee.
Is that? So that's probably not as precise as you would like it, but I think that's where we are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Ward.
Thank you. Where is this £20,000 coming from? Because if we pay out of our grants money, we're not going to have a lot left.
No, this isn't grant application. This is.
Yes. Very quickly, Councillor, I think it's coming from an allocation from the underspend, which is going to be considered in 1912.
That's fine.
Councillor.
Thank you. Can we just check which committee does CEE report to?
Would you confirm that?
Yeah, so we'll pull back through services, so that's why I was saying the monitoring would come back through services, so each services committee at the minute is an information item that gives a sort of running of what the CE is looking at.
Sure, so why hasn't this got the services first?
Mainly because of the timing of the meetings in the running order of where we're at now. So it was just coming through here first because obviously we need to ask for money first and then it'll go through.
If you went to services in July,
yes,
the money would be available for September. How do you start the work?
Yeah.
So we're
Just
it's
we not get bogged down in the details because otherwise it's important.
It isn't. I know. With all respect, Chair, I want to get it right though.
Yeah,
I don't care if it takes me time, and I need to know the answers. Because I don't see this happen. Do we have precedents for this then, Chair? Do we?
Can I say, Chair? Because otherwise we're going to get carried away. So, Councillor Thurman, can you just be clear? What's the question?
Is there precedence for going over or around a committee to then go back to it? Yeah, have we done that before? Well, it's our.
We've been offered some help from the end of the table. Please carry on.
No precedent has been set because the standard process is services cannot allocate funds. Only you can allocate funds. So it has to come here first. CEE group can then present to services, which is their committee, to say, we can do this and we have funding. Otherwise, CEE would have to go to services, say, services would agree. It would then have to come back to F&G to say, can you give us some money, please? Which is a ridiculous way of doing it. So we did that with the fireworks, if you remember.
Yeah.
So the process is this: you guys, this committee authorised to spend. They're asking for money for as yet unspecified actions that will help the CE plan. Services can then vote on the plan in the that the money is already there.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, they will be going, do we have the money for that? Which is what happened last year.
Okay.
It is the right way around.
That makes me feel more confident. Okay. Thank you.
Are we happy now?
See, it's a good question, Chair.
No, I know.
Yes, it was.
Councillor Legg.
It was.
I was only going to say, we're allocating money to services for them to spend. You know, fine, I'm happy with that.
Councillor Allen.
Councillor Gray beat me to it really, but said it much more eloquently.
But in a nutshell, if we don't approve this tonight, then it's going to come back again.
Right.
That's about.
Can we crack on with this?
We certainly can.
I propose we follow the recommendation.
Yes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Legg is seconding.
Are we going to be taking both parts at the same time?
Yes. Just go both parts. So all those in favour, please show.
Five, six. Four.
Those against?
Zero.
Any abstentions?
Two, Chair, so carried. I've never really good in numbers, Chair.
Say it.
That's Martha would have.
And they're going to vote on the budget.
Okay, moving on. Draft media policy.
Chair. The draft media policy is set out in Appendix I. It provides guidance on engaging with media and sets out the roles and responsibilities for both councillors written with input from the government working group, the senior leadership team and the communications team, with a relation that this committee agreed to recommend the policy to the full council for adoption. Take any questions there are in the actual policies.
Do you have any questions?
It's not a question itself. I just noticed that ward councillors are invited to photo opportunities for events in their ward. Some wards have no events from Weymouth Town Council in them, and therefore I'll never be in a photograph.
Oh.
Any further questions?
So,
Where are you?
No, I don't. Members, I had a chat with Lisa, our business manager, last week, and I had a look through this, which I know how to do through working groups. One of the things that I noticed with the parallel press releases, which seems to give an emphasis that we should be doing lots of press releases, this is us giving guidance to our content. I wonder whether that is actually good guidance, because I recall when we spoke to the police, they said they do very few press releases because they just put stuff on Facebook and the press pick it up. And it occurs to me we're just generating an admin task. And we want to save off the time and have productive use of all the time. So I had an amendment I sent to Ian. I don't know, Ian, do you have the wording I sent you? Yes. That was fine. So my amendment there is very flashy, but the red text is my suggested change, which is they recognise that local press and radio stations for social media stories, in most cases, the easier way to disseminate, although not all residents use social media, local media organisations form a bridge between social media and residents. And then I'll put a bit out here, but press releases help publicise more formal council announcements and will reflect the council's corporate views and values. Press releases should be used for more detailed items where there is value derived from providing a longer format to the media. So that's the wording I've put. Today's one was an example. We had a press release just before I came here, but that was a list of mayor's engagements with the photo opportunities that the press can attend. That's a good use of time because that's telling the press they can come and get photos of the mayor doing things. A sort of press release we do occasionally, like will be the grants we mentioned tonight. That will be published on social media, bit back box. The press will pick it up, local people will share the story, And we don't need to spend time drafting press releases, in my opinion. But that's the amendment I'd like to make around this. And I don't know if Sarah would like to comment on it one way or the other.
So there's still value in sending press releases direct to journalists, just because you'll then got a direct link with them, there's any follow-up queries or interview requests, and you're dealing straight with them rather than relying on them to pick up the social media post, which can't be guaranteed, although they do pick up a lot of that stuff from social media.
Would you like a second? I can remember that.
Just 2 points. Firstly, on the comment on press releases. Journalists are inherently lazy. If you send them something, they'll probably print it in total because they don't really want the time to draw around reading those bits and pieces. The other thing is on the general presence of a policy, I'm happy to support a policy for the council as a body as to how things should be done. What I'm not happy is that this should in some way try and encompass individual members. And there has been 1 or 2 things that have come around, I think, from the communication suggesting how members might respond to certain events and aspects of things. For me, I will, as an elected, democratically elected member, put forward my own views, irrespective of whether they fit the councils or not, because that's what I have as a democratically elected member, I have a duty to do. So whilst I'm happy to support this, I wouldn't want to be any sort of part of members being, if you like, told how they should respond to things. Chair.
Thank you very much. Do you want to come up?
I can say, Councillor Nixon, to you, this has been through the governance working group multiple times, I believe. And initially it did sort of state what members can, who they can check and what makes them. It's been, the text has been changed a lot to make it a lot more, as you say, we are citizens, we are entitled to have opinions. You have to make it clear it is your opinion and we are entitled to do that. What it is saying is, for example, if this committee was making a statement, the chair would be the person who would do it, and he would, Councillor Barrow would have to sort of say what the committee had decided, not his personal views, if he was representing this committee. And that's what the policy has been written to do.
Does that give you some comfort?
Well, certainly within that, obviously within a committee, we have a debate, and members, individual members, can put forward their own views, and obviously then the councillors or the chair of that can make a policy statement on behalf of the council, notwithstanding that individual members may have different views.
Okay, thank you. Councillor.
Could you give us an example of the press release you put out about the seaweed?
We have issued a statement about the seaweed available on the council website.
We get blamed for that.
Probably.
Yeah, we are. I had a parent at school blame us. Today. Why are you cleaning it up?
Seaweed policies.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Any further questions before I move to the? So Luke has suggested some changes in the wording of policy. Up there. We're going to second that. Councillor Bell. I'll have you move to the vote. Those in favour?
What remember?
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do it again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Those against?
1.
Any abstention? Thank you very much. Now we have to move back to recommendation that the Finance Committee agreed to recommend policy for capital. Amended. Do we have a proposal? Can we get them? We have a seconder. Councillor Bell. All those in favour?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is now in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully this next item will be fairly quick. We shouldn't have too much discussion. What we're asking for is to your government's return to be recommended to full council where it will be approved, which is a legal requirement to do so. What we're asking this committee to do the agenda for that side of the government statement and government statement, which is on the screen now, which is a series of assertions which we have to go through to ensure that our control environment is sufficient and strong enough so that we comply with the financial regulations we have to adhere to. They are subject to internal and external scrutiny as well. So it's not just we just tick the box and say, there you go, everything's good. They do actually come along and sort of audit what we're saying we're doing. You'll see also in the papers that there is the assertion which goes into a bit more detail with it between the signing off. So that's the annual government statement, Chair. Accompanying on is the annual statement for 22-23. I say it every year. It is incredibly simplistic for those of you who are used to any other form of account. It's just those boxes there. Again, they are subject to internal and external audit. So if this is what we put forward, this is what council agrees, this is what will be audited. So we're asking for these two statements to be recommended for council and they can be approved. In addition, we do have an internal audit going on at the moment, and that will be completed next week. The report of findings of that will be reported to full council on the 20th of June. And obviously there's the external audit report, the final part of the annual government the external audit will be completed. So just asking Chair for these to be recommended for council, but we are the annual rebate.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody?
Can I propose, please, Chair?
You certainly can.
And also, can I just thank Ian and his team for once again making sure we're in safe place.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure we will support that thing. Do we have a second? And go straight to vote. Go in favour. Thank you very much.
So, moving on to the final outturn report, Chair. So, there's three elements which we are asking for members to consider within this report. The first one is just to note the outturn figure, which, if you just bear with me, is 247,603. That is the outturn figure for the year. Obviously, they normally go into too much detail at this meeting because there's so much information that behind still something to external audit. There's not too much we can do to change that figure. But what I would say, members, is I think the outturn does form a very important part of the tools that I would expect the budget working group to use when looking at the budget going forward. Obviously, it will be able to figure information that pressure. So it will help formulate a budget for 2024-25. The second thing after this report is just to review the reserve which we have at the moment. The recommendation is not to make too many changes, but members of the committee will recall that we did have a look at the asset management plan back in March, and that identified some quite significant costs which we will need to be doing over the next 3 years. What we're proposing, Chair, is when I get down to the table which is in the report, is to consolidate some of the reserves which we have set aside for those planned maintenance aspects coming forward. So it just gives us greater flexibility rather than just earmarking it for specific areas. So it allows Shane, before the report to be marked, to have that flexibility to undertake those work in a little more efficient way. So that's really the only change which we're recommending to the reserve, but obviously we don't want to change anything with the existing reserve, and we can recommend that. We can take that full council. And the last part of the report is to look at the underspend which we've agreed to note as part one, and make any recommendations for council on how you wish that underspend to be allocated. There's different ways you can do this. I'll just pull up what the figure is within your agenda pack. This is just the start of, if you like, of what's been drawn up as a recommendation by allocation. I would say you members can agree to that, recommend full council pass the list. They can make changes to that. Or indeed, they can actually, you don't have to allocate that for them after this meeting. You can leave some unallocated if you wish to do that and believe there's a greater flexibility. You haven't got enough information to allocate or the money for specific purposes now. So there'll be some items in there which will recognise the election reserve fund up every year. We need to plan for the election next year. So I mentioned. We also see the 20,000 in there, which is considered in item 9, somewhere around there, the 20,000. And you'll also recognise the support of the committee, which this committee agreed to recommend the full council. So we need that until up to time the full council either agree that or decide that it's not something they need to do, but it needs to be in the school. So I hope that makes sense. I don't know if Councillor Gracia is the ACO chair for the last 2 years. We just want to finish the circle. Anyway.
I'm assuming Councillor Gracia would.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. I'll say some things that probably Ian won't say. If you draw your mind back to a year ago, we've seen unprecedented inflation this year. It's like Dodge City out there with procurement. It really is tough for procurement and has been for the last 12 months. And we've seen a massive change in the structure of this council. But despite all of that, that's 4 years in a row and 16 quarters where we've come in underspent. Now, it is true that we plan to underspend because we preset for reserves. But still, it's a great result in a year where a lot of councils are really struggling. The naysayers will say the money was always there, but with pay rises where they've been, it's a fantastic result. And I'd like to pay tribute to Ian and the finance team, the senior leadership team who've been through a fair bit this year in terms of staff restructuring, and indeed this committee. Most of you have been on this committee for a number of years, and your stewardship of 4 years in a row underspending and managing the finances so that the next council is in a great place. You'll note in the account that we actually gained £41,000 in interest this year. And if you remember in 2019 when we were sat here, we had to borrow some money from Dorset Council to get started. So we've come a long way, and certainly the balance sheet is in great shape. It's very healthy. The investment proposals, the investment process is in place, and he's managing that on a weekly basis. Income generation was up again last year to 934,000, despite some issues we've got with some of our the way we generate income is up again. And I know Charmaine's been doing a lot of work with our leaseholders. It's tough out there at the moment. So take a moment to reflect on the fact that it's been 4 fantastic years. Couple of things really. The changes to the reserves. I now believe that we've got a reserve programme stated that reflects the structure that we now have, because before, I'll give you an example, a budget holder would have a maintenance budget and a capital maintenance budget and decide in their little bit where they spent it. Now we've got an asset manager, and Councillor Nicholson was always questioning me last year about where we're going to get the money to spend that. So we draw all that together under one person, and that asset manager will make decisions across all the assets rather than for the individual departments. So again, breaking down the sort of silo management, he can make a decision across it, and you have the power to do that. And Jane will come talk to you about what the assets we need to invest in. The other thing you'll notice with the unspent proposal is that we've kept it fairly loose with putting money into projects so that I would say rather than you've got money in budgets there which you can move around. So project budget you can allocate to whatever you want. So if something does come up, you can move it. So it's a good set of results. We've got some challenges, and going forward, you know, toilets is a big challenge. We need to decide. We spent £56,500 on water last year. That is, we wouldn't be budgeting for that. So we've got to look at our toilet provision. We've got some challenges around staff. You know, the inflation in the market with casual staff is horrendous, and so I think you've got your challenges in the next year, but you're in a good financial stable place to be able to make those decisions, and he deserves the credit along with his team and the leadership team for getting us there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we go to the questions. This team has done over the last 4 years. I'm a school governor, I'm on the fire authority, I'm on the police authority, I'm on Dorset Council. I see lots of other organisations putting their budget together with extraordinarily difficult circumstances. The way that our finances have been run and managed, but here we are at town council. Very effective. Many thanks to Councillor Gray and Ian Mill and coming in very quick.
You've just stolen what I was going to say, but never mind.
Next business.
Yeah.
Next business then.
No. One question. Up there's request for reserves, the school holiday provision reserve. Have we investigated whether that can come from Dorset Council because they are responsible for school children? And it's not necessarily a town council.
It's absolutely not the town council responsibility, but you want to
Just to say that it was approved to be recommended to full council here on the finance governance on the 26th of April. The ins and outs of whether we should be doing, I'm happy to say that that's been amended rather than myself, but you'll consider it on the 21st of June at full council. We can read through that for you.
Okay, that's well,
Thank you very much, Chair. Ian, I don't remember it like that, what you just said, to fund the additional cost of school holiday provision, what as recommended. I don't remember us recommending that or having a vote.
I do, I think. Yeah.
You know, if I'm wrong, but I don't remember it being, I thought it was being deferred while you sought information about whether or not it was legal.
Okay, Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I mean, time is pressing on. Are we voting at the moment on the overall allocation of reserves for that to be debated in more fully at full council? Because I'm not happy with Councillor Watley said that is one of the items which I'm unhappy about, because I'm not sure it is the role of a town council or parish council to get involved in that type of expenditure. But we're not being asked to vote on individual items, we're being asked to vote on the total of it. If that's the case, I would have to vote against it because there is an item in there that I don't agree with. But if that's coming back to full council, then presumably all members will then have a view on whether that's done or not.
So let me try and clarify this in my own mind. We are the outturn and the reserves. Well, the outturn is the outturn. The reserves are the reserve, but we could, if we wanted to, make changes, but things that have serious consideration by others, can't be what we would. And the money, things that we intend to spend, we understand on, we are free to change. But if it is true that this committee is already voted for it to go to full council, and think I'm bad for that, but we can basically, yeah. That's all right.
Yes, well, I was on holiday for the last F&G, but my understanding was if the vote went through, somebody could check that, because technical business is through, and we need to check that. But to answer specifically after the £60,000 question, you can vote tonight to accept the reserves of 247,000. If we debate that item at full council, I think there's significant opposition to it, but if we did debate it, the 60,000 would then go back into the pot, as it were, to be reallocated or indeed float into a pending pot until somebody decides, where we. So it's already been voted on previously, but we've still got full council to approve that. So if they don't approve it, I suspect there'll be an amendment to that. We could reallocate the money to something else or put it into saving.
Okay, does that help?
Well, sorry, I'm just a bit confused. We said the vote went through on this, so what we're saying is now that we are recommending that allocation of reserves when it's already been voted upon. Whereas I'm not happy to vote on that allocation of reserve because I agree with it, so I have to vote against it now. Are we voting to send it to full council? Or we're not voting on whether it's right or not. That's my understanding.
Well, for clarity, can you help us here with the clarity on that you have to last meeting?
So, after the last meeting, Chair, the behind us there was voted 6 in favour, 4 against, I believe, to recommend full council for the cost of the. So because we've agreed to support the scheme with the recommendation, prudently we need to ensure that funds are available should full council approve that recommendation from F&G. If they don't, as Councillor Gray quite rightly says, that figure those funds become available for alternative uses. So just to clarify what we're asking for today, we're asking our members to note the understanding of 24763. So that's almost a given, which is hard to know that. We're asking members, secondly, to agree the amalgamation of the reserve and further report to have one plan maintenance reserve. And then we're asking members for recommendations for council of how they want that underspend allocated. I am not expecting this list to go to full council as it is. I would expect some members to debate whether they want to take something off or put something on. All I would say, Councillor Nicholson, is you can't really take £60,000 off because it's already been agreed with full council to make that.
Does that offer some clarity?
Well, is that allocation of reserves, is that a separate item?
Well, it can be, yeah, we can make it 3 separate items. Right?
Yeah, okay.
Quite straightforward. There we go. We vote first on first 2, so we can make progress, but okay. So are we happy to take recommendation 1, which is making the draft outturn position for 22-23, but which recognises the underspend of 247,673. So opposed, second, David Harris. All those in favour? Against? Any abstention? Carried. The recommendation 2, considering the existing list of reserves, that's there. So now we'll propose to accept the reserve they stand.
I think that we're just asking members to approve the reserve with the amendment as on screen. If those reserves go to 1 before a plan making.
I don't think it's actually. Yeah.
They're not, because that's how we did it. We're asking members to agree that list with the list amended, that the reserve which on the screen get amalgamated into 1.
So following this vote, that amalgamation. Yeah. Right. That do you Lena. Do we have that? Outturn. All in favour? Against?
Unanimous?
The third recommendation is return. What's that about beginning with it?
I can explain to you very briefly in about 1 minute what we've got there, and then members may just decide whether to take any items out or add any items in. Exactly as we take a full is in there so that we fund the capital elections next year. That's what we preset for, same with the plan maintenance and all the plans we put in. Fire resistant storage is if we identify that we have a lot of documentation around the cemeteries that we need to protect the records which we have. That's why doing that in place to have fire resistant storage. We identified that £50,000 making it easier towards building a tumble down. Sanford Castle, we have 50,000 in reserve. We identified the remaining more 50, open to members' discretion. The waste reserve we discussed, school holiday one we discussed. Service events reserve we spent 25,000 to 50 on the King's coronation. That is replenishing that reserve, but it still has that.
It's not going to be coronated again.
Not quite, this is normal event.
That's the heritage, yeah.
Basic support reserve is we recognise that there could be the additional cost, particularly public diseases and beach cleansing. Project reserve, which CRAG has identified the flexibility for the on board and the balance of the agreement for people and the environment reserve for the 3 years. So that's why they're there. Members can amend that list, take items out if they agree, or add other ones in. We can't allocate more than the 3%. We don't have to allocate more.
Thank you very much. So, question is now, Catherine, keep waiting for.
Thank you, Chair. The question for Ian, on the allocations of the proposed authority new, is that a committee has proposed authority without going to full council, or officers have?
As it stands at the moment, it is down to officers.
Okay.
Because that provides a greater flexibility. You could, if you have some concerns about that, you could instead having the authority to use that full council, members could recommend it is either committee rather than not.
Okay, then a follow-up. The first one I'd like to query then is the Sanford Castle Bridge works, because I'm on the friends group for that area. I see there is some question whether we need to replace the bridge, because the bridge, if you're aware of it, doesn't provide stable access to the form because it's upstairs at my end. So there's a question whether it's worth spending £30,000 on a bridge that fails to provide any stable access to the castle, and whether it's something better if we go into the location. So although I don't mind the money going generally in that direction, I'd like to change the proposed authority to use to the services committee. So whatever the work, if work are needed, it is debated and decided by a council committee on the bridge. So that's the first thing I propose. The second thing, and I haven't got an answer to this, I'm afraid, it's just a lot of our money, is on the toilet working group. And we have identified that are in serious need of refurbishment. And I don't mean £50,000 refurbishments, I mean 6-figure funds. We haven't put a request in yet because we haven't actually got a schedule of works. I appreciate it, we've just put 40 million into the general maintenance budget, but this is going to be something else. So I'm not providing an answer here, but I'm just suggesting to members we may want to think about leaving some money spare or having a plan if we do need to spend a large amount getting our toilets spec. There's been comments in Facebook about, well, Maiden Street, and I agree, they don't smell fresh because they just need to be stripped out. So the brickwork. Cove Street's another one. A lot of cruise passengers, the first thing they do when they get on the bus, they go to the loo, and if I'm honest, they're not a great representation of our town. So these are some of the things that the toilet working group will be bringing forward in the future. And yes, there will be a budget attack. Will need to be a budget to go with them.
Yes, members, I'd like to add in there £2,500 for the youth council. If that would be acceptable. We did have a project for the youth council around coronation, and sadly because of the weather, they were not able to do that, but it still cost. Well, that was out of our hands, had to go or not, and I would like to see that funding reintroduced to the council so they're able to do an event or however they see fit.
It's acceptable. I think what we do is we just take general questions before we start and find out what the feeling is in the short. I think we have to start thinking about it. So,
Just on two points. The youth council, you've already got 9,000 in reserve, so why do you need another 2,500? I'm not on the committee, so I couldn't ask you that. Then a bit of background on Sanford Council, because this worried me a lot and did worry me in the last year. When the original plan was brought by Summer Williams, the cost of replacing the bridge with disabled access was £30,000. We asked them, from memory, we asked them to go away and look at a platform rather than a bridge, and allocated £15,000. That's suddenly now come for another ask for another 15,000 to look at a castle that we're not even sure is going to be there in 5 years' time. So I feel uncomfortable. I'm easy to say that is £30,000 on a bridge going nowhere. A good use of council money would be my view. And if it wasn't there, could they still look at whatever it looks at? Could you still look out? I don't know. But this is one of those I refer to Dorset City thing where the price of children is gone absolutely. I would worry that we would get it for 30,000. Some caution now. And as far as the toilet is concerned, I think that's a good example of bringing a one fund under assets is a good example, because what Shane has to do is we've got a finite amount of money. We need to decide which assets to spend it on. We can't spend it on everything. So the toilets will come out of that. If there was any spare money coming out of that underspend, let's say £60,000, that could easily go into the asset budget as a way of weighting the full amount that could happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yes, just considering what Colin do, not councillor, but you're all friends here. We're saying just now about the toilets. I'm not surprised at the comment on that one, but I would like somehow or other that we are aware of it when it comes to making money available or asking full council as to what they want to do with maybe that reserve, whether they want to allocate it or whatever. And I would like to put a ring fence around some of it, at least the reserve I'm talking about, to say that this has got to go to toilets because the toilet is going to be so dark. That's not to say, of course, that the toilet will only cost whatever is being ring fenced or identified, but that will be for a provisional tentative sum. And I presume the toilet one refurbishment will go on for several years. Something we've all done in one go, 1 year over in the thought. Or am I wrong on that one?
1 year.
You do it all in 1 year. Well,
Do 1 a year.
1 a year.
Oh, 1 year. Fine. So I would like to see some of those reserves, if you like, earmarked for toilets, even though we don't know exactly how much is going to be wanted. But that is to stop people getting a bit loose in their expenditure and decide to spend it on something else.
We're not going to be honest. Well, I feel quite uncomfortable with this. We are taking forward money to the fairly people in manner based on fairly insufficient information. So my own view would be we put it in one pot and we allocate it when the actual work has been done. That gives us the evidence of what the expenditure is needed. Without too simplistic. That's great. What do you think about it?
Well, there are certain reserves that you talk about the whole reserve amount.
No, just below what the other thing.
Yes, so the whole underspend of 247,000, there are reserves there that have been voted, so for instance, the election reserve, that has to go ahead every year, we preset for that. Plan maintenance, if it wasn't in the proposal, it would be split into separate pots, so bringing those together is, in fact, what you're describing. The other ones, the fire, can't quite read that, fire storage, that has to be done. That is on the red list. If you remember when it came to those of you who are IFNG, Shane brought in a red, amber, and any other. We have to do the red stuff. So the 277, and you've got other pots that you can pull money from, you know, project reserve pots. There aren't too many contentious ones up there. I would personally say, you know, we have to fix the toilets before we spend £30,000 on a bridge, but that's my personal view. And when this goes to full council, my suggestion, if I may, Chair, is to say that we leave time to debate this. Maybe if you want to add some other headings that you've discussed here, and then full council, you can either reallocate, or certainly there's 2 or 3 that will struggle to get through in my view.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah, following from what Councillor Gray says, what we're basically saying is that we send this as a recommendation with a proviso that some of these things are need further debate. I think if that's the case, I do think this item needs to be at the top of the agenda, because there's some serious debate going to be required around this. We don't want this to be starting to be a debate at 9 o'clock. I think this needs to be very high, because I suspect there's going to be a lot of time and people are going to want to have their say on this. And there are some very important issues that people have raised with the money. I mean, I think rather than try and tweak around this now, whilst I understand agree with some of this, saying that it is, frankly, and then full council, maybe even percent was but at the top of the agenda.
Okay.
Going back to the school holiday, is it possible we could check with Dorset whether they're going to do anything? Or have you already checked? I know it's a very worthy call.
Okay.
I think I can probably answer that to a certain extent. They are allocating some funding, but for only those people on benefit income support and income support. And it's the fact that there are plenty of people who cannot afford to feed their children through the summer holidays that are not in that category.
Okay, but again, to go back to Councillor Lincoln, what if we send this through as it is, but was a recommendation that needs further debate?
Yeah.
Then that point can be picked up there.
Yeah.
Councillor Wigan.
Thank you. I must disagree with Councillor Nicholson. There's 11 of us, sorry, 10 of us left in this room, and we're struggling with this. If you throw it into the room with 29 people, it will go on for days.
Sorry, Chair, that's democracy. I'm afraid there's some very important figures in here.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
My suggestion is if we're unsure, we unallocate stuff, because it'd be better to have some budget we can allocate, say, at Christmas time when things are clearer. Then I think we need to make a sensible recommendation, and my feeling from what we've said is we should actually take some of these lines out and just have it as unallocated budget, which gives us the freedom once something's clearer to make decisions, and then we are presenting full council with something that isn't going to take all day to debate. Because I would just fear you see how we're struggling, there's only 10 of us. If you do it in the committee 3 times the size, our job is to make them a recommendation. I feel we could do that. So I guess if I'm making a proposal, it is probably to keep the green stuff in there, to keep the fire resistant storage and tumble down in there, to keep the CE thing in there, because we've already voted that earlier tonight. And I would suggest we keep the rest unallocated. So elections, yes, plan maintenance, yes, fire storage, yes, tumble down, yes, CE, yes, and the rest we keep unallocated. And that would be a recommendation to full council for how to deal with the underspend.
You can't unallocate, sorry,
Sorry, Chair, you can't allocate the school's funding because it's already been voted on. You can't do that.
No, but it might get changed at full council.
You will do, yeah, but you can't allocate, you can't change it. Whatever, mate.
How do you want to proceed?
I think that we can pick up what Luke said and unallocate quite a lot of it. We can actually mention that doesn't stop the full council from unallocating other things, but it gives them the idea that there could be this one unallocated block of big things to come forward. But we could then add one or two things. Certainly we should add toilets to that unallocated area so that people realise there are other things than that we as a committee feel are important to discuss.
Just to, I think I probably agree with you, Councillor Harris, but I'm just sort of thinking in my own mind, what I would suggest would be is that if members are minded to go with it, is to approve the non-yellow one as the FND recommendation, sorry. So FND's recommendation would almost be subject to you voting to be the non-yellow one. They would include in the report the yellow items customer as areas which are identified which were not, which needed further consideration. And if there's any other items which need to be added to this, then it'd be up to full council to add things back into this rather than take stuff off. Does that make sense, or is that a bit too?
You don't do that again.
So we would take the full council, the non-yellow one, so the 10, the 6, the 6, the 50, the 20, and the 60. That would leave, within the report, it would highlight items which were on the list, which was taken out of this committee. So members have an opportunity to put things back in the full council. And if members have any other items which they either agree to go on the list now or rather to go into the report to be considered, if I can have those, and that would be the list to be considered by full council.
And the one that we seem to have as an agreement is the toilet. So I think that can I propose that is added to the list that are in yellow.
The only shame of that is we don't know how much money.
No, but it's an area that needs.
So, Chair, can I just be clear? What we're saying is Ian is saying that the total we have got is the 247, whatever it is, 603, that if we want to add anything, it's a matter of taking something out of somewhere else. We're not adding to the money, are we?
Yeah.
So, which is
That's the amount.
that's the amount. So if we're going to have a debate about adding things, we'll have to have a debate on what does. Is that? So it's not
So what I'm calling, hopefully saying, probably very hard, is we will be allocating this committee, those which believe and understand. Paying the whole people, and if we were only like 150. And then there's this other item, plus the toilet, which full council may or may not want to allocate to that list or any more public meetings.
Presumably, or leave it for future assets to come forward.
And they could decide not to allocate anything, but the ones which you highlighted here, they get allocated, and then the other ones come forward as and when. So that's the one.
And if you say we could actually recommend full council, but they don't allocate them, like further work has been done through the need for it. So we
can create a reserve, effectively. It sits there and then sits there.
Can I propose that?
Yes. Are we all clear on what we're voting on?
Yep.
Those in favour? Thank you very much.
We can have.
I don't think you said end of that item, have you?
Again.
Have you said end of that item?
No, yeah.
Okay, could we just make some progress on this, this bridge? Because Councillor Wakeling and myself, ward councillors, and I've heard other people saying we don't need to do this. Can we not just
Yeah, I think your question's been answered that. You know what I mean?
I can come on that, so, it's not straightforward, as you think, so ground investigation work has to take place borehole and things. Obviously due to transition times within the restructure, it hasn't been as quick as we hoped, but it has been progressing over the last few weeks. So hopefully it won't be the July services, but the one afterwards, we'll have an idea of the spring committee, so with the services after next, but it should be an idea of what proposal is for the bridge.
Okay, because I was going to say, can you go back to services, back to services?
And it seems wise that we've got councillors who are friends of group, but they would be involved in that.
The works that have been taking place are more technical works.
That'll be the gathering.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and consultation as well with friends with.
No, I was just going to say, you know, but I realise we can't make the decision not to include it. It has to be services because services have approved it and we approve some finance for it. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's how I understand it.
Because I would be totally against it, spending money on that.
And you
And I
approved,
was at the
you
time.
approved the 15.
I didn't.
No, this committee did.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair.
I mean, it's one of these, it's gone back in the pot for more thinking, isn't it? That might not happen.
Yes, services can't approve another 15,000 unless it uses its own funds.
Okay.
Only full council can do that.
Okay.
So we haven't allocated it, it's gonna have to come back here anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Way of looking for it.
Right.
So we've got 10 minutes to cover off the debt items, but if we do discuss that, we just need to vote on these solutions.
Read the wording out exactly.
What I'd like to propose, we're just noting the debtors item. I don't particularly wish to discuss it, and that no other member than neither to discuss it. We could just note it.
Sorry, Chair, just information items, we just need to note those down, taking everybody's correctly.
Yeah.
I did don't know. So that's just a noting. The debt report, I can give a further update, if members so wish, but we just need to go to close session for the.
Agree, but the point being, we need to do that. Is there anything else significant further we need to know?
I'll give you an update without going to closed session.
Okay.
In so much as outstanding at the year end, we now only have two debtors outstanding at the end of March. One of those is an ongoing debt loan payment members will be aware of. And the second one is one which is now going through the court. All of the monies, all of the outstanding debt which was going through the court previously has all been paid. So there's only two outstanding debt from last year, none from April.
Can I second Luke and note those points?
Okay.
Use.